What's up guys, Sean here, and today we're going to talk about
The gift that keeps on giving is Anita Sarkeesian. What's up, geeks and gamers? It's Jeremy.
What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the quartering.
Jeremy.
yeah, we're going to talk about the thing that's in the title of this video, not that for 10 or 15 minutes or however long this video is. But before we get started, I hope that all of you guys had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I personally had a wonderful Friendsgiving, followed by an amazing Thanksgiving. I hope that none of you got into those awkward politics talks that people talk about happening at Thanksgiving, but really shouldn't happen at Thanksgiving. I mean, I find it kind of ridiculous that politicians from the left and the right put out Thanksgiving conversation guides. Just talk to your family, be a person, and let go of politics for a nice 4-day weekend where you can share food. That's my philosophy. And I hope that your Thanksgiving reflects my philosophy. And if it didn't, then I don't know, don't bring down the mood by telling me. Oh, and also, for those of you who are in my Canadian audience, I did hear over the holiday weekend that you guys do Thanksgiving in October. What is wrong with your country? Please tell me in the comments below, and please tell me what you're doing to fix the many, many problems in your country that allow you to have Thanksgiving a month early. Not looking for any logical explanations, just apologies on behalf of the nation of Canada. But now that we got all that stuff out of the way, let's talk about this new controversy that seems to be surrounding the new Disney Plus series, The Mandalorian. For those of you who don't know, The Mandalorian takes place in the Star Wars universe. I believe that it takes place after the original trilogy and before these new movies. I don't know for sure because I actually haven't seen The Mandalorian because I refuse to give Disney Plus my money, and I have a sinister, albeit ingenious plot to get myself a Disney Plus trial when all the episodes are actually out. That way I can watch them all in one go and cancel before they charge me, because I'm trying to prevent Disney from getting all of my money, even though it's an eventuality that Disney will soon own all of our money, because they will own all the things that we choose to watch and all of the companies that we choose to do business with soon enough. But hey, just because I'm waiting doesn't mean that the world waits, and this series, The Mandalorian, is extremely popular from what I hear with fans of the original series and people who are very dissatisfied with the direction of Disney Star Wars movies. So if those people are happy with it, then conversely, the people who are happy with the new direction of Star Wars, the people who aren't really fans of the original trilogy of Star Wars, must find something about this to be angry at in order to elicit negative responses from the fan base so that they can call the fan base toxic. And the expert in that, a almost mythical figure in that I don't believe she would exist without fan outrage against her, is Anita Sarkeesian. And Anita Sarkeesian, after viewing the first episode of The Mandalorian, decided it was really important to point out the lack of women in The Mandalorian. And I have her tweet for you, but I didn't look it up before filming this part of the video, so I'm going to paraphrase it because I can't be bothered to look it up before filming this video. So I'm watching The Mandalorian, and I can't be the only one who notices that there are no speaking women in this show movie thing. I don't like it, and it's current year. We should have women everywhere. Am I extremely tired, or is there not a single female-speaking character in the first episode of the hashtag Mandalorian? I gotta have missed something, right? Women! So of course Anita puts this out and she is immediately ratioed, which makes a lot of sense because Anita Sarkeesian is likely already unpopular amongst the Star Wars fandom, and this is the one thing that the Star Wars fandom, the original trilogy Star Wars fandom, appears to have liked since Disney has taken over Star Wars, and Anita is saying that this thing that they liked, the one thing that they liked, is sexist, which is a similar criticism of that same fandom that Kathleen Kennedy and Rian Johnson leveled against them for not liking The Last Jedi, because, you know, it's never that they didn't like the movie that you made because the movie that you made wasn't what they were expecting or didn't line up with the Star Wars canon the way that it should. It's because that there's something wrong with you or something wrong with the fandom as a whole when they don't like the product that you're trying to sell that fandom. Now, obviously, I don't agree with Anita's criticism. I'm told that she's factually wrong, that there actually is a woman speaking in the first episode, so she couldn't even get that part right. But people really need to stop playing into Anita Sarkeesian's hands, because this woman is literally wealthy, or at least pretty decently well off, due to the fact that people keep reacting to everything that she does. Then she says, look at how all these mean trolls are reacting to me, give me money. And then people who feel bad for her because she seems to be getting a lot of criticism that is disproportionate to the opinions that she's putting out, and they start shoveling money into their hand. And unless your goal is to enrich Anita Sarkeesian, it would be way smarter of you to just ignore her bad opinions and move on from them, not give her the reaction that she's looking for. Because shortly after she was ratioed, she tweeted out a photo talking about how she was ratioed, implying that the Star Wars fans are super toxic and they're coming for her. And eventually, down the line, that's going to come with a donation link, and it's going to start this whole process over and over again. So what I'm trying to say is that if you really don't like Anita Sarkeesian and you feel like her critiques don't have any value, then stop reacting to everything Anita Sarkeesian does, and she won't be able to monetize the victim points from your reactions to her. Anita Sarkeesian is basically powered the exact same way that Santa Claus is powered, except obviously way less fun than Santa Claus, and instead of gifts that come down your chimney, she gives you criticism through your computer that you can get angry at and thus fuel her existence. But basically what that means is that the more you believe in her, the more that you treat her as if she is representative of the feminist critique of pop culture, the more she becomes that. The more people want to defend her, the more people want to give her money. The best thing you can do to Anita Sarkeesian, or the best thing you can do if you don't want to hear more from Anita Sarkeesian, is just ignore her. Pretend that she doesn't exist. And like Santa Claus, if you stop believing, she'll go away. Also, it's not that difficult to go up against feminist criticism, because feminist criticism of television and movies is not that valuable. What Anita is alluding to in this tweet is some version of the Bechdel test that she is imposing on The Mandalorian. Now, for those of you who are unawares, the Bechdel test is a test that a movie can pass by having two named female characters have a conversation that is not about a man. Now, a lot of feminists and a lot of anti-SJW content creators on this platform treat passing the Bechdel test either in a show or an episode of a show, because over the course of a series, basically every show will pass the Bechdel test, or in a movie as somehow a stamp of feminism or feminist-approved content, when that's complete nonsense. The Bechdel test is literally a joke. It comes from a feminist comic book from the 80s that was mocking what the author believed to be examples of lack of representation in media. There's no academic origin for the Bechdel test. It was just popularized by this comic book author as a joke, and since modern feminist theory is a joke, they decided to incorporate it into their film programs. But even if this test was a serious measurement of the levels of feminism in movies, it fails because it is completely incompatible with how one would structure a movie. If you have a main character that's a male, let's say a movie like Captain America Winter Soldier, where the main character is a male, and the secondary character, the villain, is the Winter Soldier, also a male. If in that movie, randomly, Scarlett Johansson's character decided to go meet with another female character that was named, I think, whatever Carter that was in that movie, and they had a conversation that wasn't related to Captain America or the Winter Soldier, that would be a superfluous, pointless conversation that would make the movie worse. In fact, you are told when you are writing scripts not to name a character unless you need to name a character, and not to write chit-chat in your dialogue that has nothing to do with anything, because if you write a bunch of superfluous dialogue, people will tune out your movie. So passing the Bechdel test for a ton of movies would make them worse, because in a number of situations, it requires the creation of superfluous characters so that they can have pointless dialogue scenes that don't relate back to the main story, the main plot, or the main character. I mean, think about it. The way that you tell the difference between a good scriptwriter and a bad scriptwriter is that a good scriptwriter is good at removing the exact scenes that the Bechdel test calls for to be in your movie in order to pass it. If your movie has a male main character, a male villain, or a male catalyzing force, then having two women have a conversation about something completely different probably doesn't belong in your movie, much less naming those two women when naming characters isn't supposed to be done unless it's absolutely necessary to the story. And by the way, the same exact thing is true if you have either a female lead, a female villain, or female catalyzing force in your movie. It doesn't make sense for two random dudes in the movie Captain Marvel to start having superfluous conversations that don't have to do with Captain Marvel. You see, the Bechdel test is incredibly superficial, and it doesn't give you any indication of the quality of the female characters that are presented to you on screen. Two female characters that are named can have a conversation, but that conversation can perpetuate a ton of negative stereotypes about women that feminists would disagree with, but it would have passed this arbitrary Bechdel test. So if that was an accurate measure of how feminist something was, then that movie would be considered a feminist movie. Conversely, you can have an amazing, well-rounded female character that in a movie where she's not the lead, or the villain is a male, or for whatever reason, her conversations are related to a dude, and that movie would fail the Bechdel test, despite the fact that that movie could have a ton of well-rounded female characters that for whatever reason don't interact with one another, or their interactions are related to male characters that happen to also be in the same movie. I mean, honestly, I can't express enough how much the Bechdel test doesn't tell you anything about the movie. In fact, the only thing I'd argue that the Bechdel test does tell you is that the person using it as a serious critique of film does not understand the medium of film. They don't understand the rule show don't tell. They don't understand the idea that films are visual mediums and dialogue is supposed to be limited to the bare minimum that you need in order to communicate information in your story. And if you can communicate something visually without creating a new character to explain it, you're supposed to do that. So your test doesn't come from anything related to film, it comes from a comic book, and again, it's literally a joke from a comic book. Film is a visual medium, it is literally visual storytelling, so stop engaging people like Anita Sarkeesian and other SJW critics who use a standard that is deliberately in conflict with good filmmaking to measure whether or not a film or movie lives up to their own personal standards. It's not valuable criticism. It is meant to be a thing that is not ever going to be fixed in movies because they're not trying to change movies. They're profiting off of complaining about why movies aren't different, even though their criticisms of those movies would make them worse and unwatchable, which is why they're not going to ever change. Their Bechdel test can be boiled down to, why don't good movies and good scripts have scenes in them that make them bad movies and bad scripts? Because that's what every movie going out of its way to pass the Bechdel test would eventually do. But that's what this is all about. People who don't understand film criticizing it in such a way that is antithetical to good filmmaking. And when movies don't change the way they want, which would be for the worst because it goes against the basics of script writing, they then take that evidence of a lack of change as evidence of this overarching patriarchy. So it's uninformed criticism that even the woke SJW people in Hollywood acknowledge that if they took it seriously and changed movies to meet it, it would damage the product. So if they're not even going to take it seriously, you shouldn't take it seriously. Anyway, that's all I really have for you guys today. Let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. If you like this video, then please show me by leaving a like. You can subscribe for more content. Follow me on all my social medias. If you want to support me, Teespring Store, Patreon, Venmo, PayPal, Subscribestar. This has been me talking about The Mandalorian, Anita Sarkeesian, and the Bechdel test. Till next time.